games on this episode. Save some of the others for the next one. But we have got just a really outstanding interview. Chris Marler, this is the best. I'm not overselling it. I mean, he was on a heater. He hit me up after we even recorded this, and even he acknowledged, I mean, this was a terrific interview. And I'll just say this. I mean, we use profanities on this show when it's warranted, but Chris was letting them fly as like a sailor here. As Cosmo Kramer would say, he let the expletives fly. So just a little note. We're playing this uncensored. College Football Uncensored, his show. And clearly, old Uncle Chris, he was uncensored for this one.
You better not be fucking recording this, dude.
I am.
Why can't I hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Let's see.
I look good today. This is nice.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
I can. What's up, you creep? Huh?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you eating on the show?
Well, not anymore. We're just all out of popcorn.
From what I've been hearing, these Georgia fans are pretty obnoxious, so I wouldn't mind them.
They are the fucking worst. It is crazy how bad they are. Yeah. Anyway, let's get to it. I gotta get some lunch, man. I'm starving.
Okay, well, let me give you a little intro here.
Yeah.
All right, we're pleased to be joined once again by friend of the show, Chris Marler. You know him, Saturday Down South, College Football Uncensored, one of the best, not only on the Twitter space, but in the podcast space. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I say this every time when I come on here. I'm just so happy for you and all the success you guys are having. I mean, you personally, not Tennessee. But no, you and cousin Shane, you're just killing it, and it's so good to see. I love that Friday Night Lights thing you guys got going on. It's everything's been great, man. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you coming in here and spending some time with us. And right off the bat, I want to ask you, how worried are you that you're going to be able to live with yourself after Alabama loses a game before Tennessee, because them Razorbacks are going to get a win this weekend?
I mean, here's the thing though. You don't want that. You don't want that if you're a Tennessee fan. And hear me out here. Like I said this last week. I was like talking about on the podcast, not SDS. I was talking about on the College Football Uncensored podcast. I'm going to be very clear about that. But no, I like we were talking about this, and I was like, man, if you're a Bama fan, you're watching this Arkansas A&M game, what you really want is like, you want this to be just like a hard-fought, physical game that goes down to the wire, and hopefully they lose in dramatic fashion. And I mean, check off the fucking boxes, because every single one of those things happened. Excuse my language. But like, all those things happen, and you look at it now, it's like, so now Arkansas's got to get back up emotionally, which their fans do an incredible job of. Arkansas fans are the best in the country, in my opinion, at getting back up. I've never had any issues with them really online, except for the one time I made a Traylon Burks comment about the game last year that you saw firsthand. They're so used to this point that it's like this is gonna sound fucked up, but like it's like a kid from a broken home. It's like you can the get back that Arkansas fans have is really good, because it's like they've been disappointed so much before. All of this is not sounding like a compliment, and I hate myself for saying it, especially the broken home reference. But no, I think that they are not going to win this weekend. But if you're a Bama fan flipping the script here, you definitely I don't think you win all three of these next three games. I don't. I think you could lose all three. I don't think they will lose all three, but I think 2-1 is good. And this is the one you want to lose. Like, if you're a Tennessee fan, you better hope that they don't lose this weekend. Because if they do what they do when they always lose, which is go on the revenge tour after that, then like that's you want to get them where they're coming in high off that Arkansas A&M win.
Are you buying the narrative all week? Alabama struggles on the road. I mean, it seems like whenever we have a narrative about Alabama, then they come out and they say, well, hell, let's go win by 50 on the road to just shut that down real quick. Or are you concerned? Because it's going to be a madhouse there in Razorback Stadium, night game. Which way are you leaning on that?
So, no, I do think it's a very real thing that Bama has struggled on the road. You look at even the Cincinnati game last year, which is a neutral site game. They obviously didn't struggle in Atlanta before that. But Bryce has his fewest passing yards he's had in like all season. I think he had like 181 passing yards in that game. You struggle at Auburn. They did not struggle at Mississippi State, which was something I think with that defense that Pete Golding has done really well against an air raid. I don't know if it's just like that's where his niche is. But you struggle at Florida badly. Where are the other road games, Mike? I'm trying to think because it seemed like they struggled every single game. Like LSU was a home game, Arkansas was a home game. They struggled with
Auburn
those a
is
little
one
bit.
that comes to mind.
Auburn was tough, which I mentioned that one, but like I do think it's a very real thing that Bama does struggle on the road. You saw it against Texas. Now, and let's also say this. I'm still on the belief that Texas is a good football team. I don't give a shit that they lost by 3 points. They lost by 4 points in 2 games without their starting quarterback. Okay, so I think that going on the road to Texas and getting a 1 point win is still a good win. But if you're going and talking about a year ago when you barely beat a Florida team that barely, they won like 6 games and you beat them by 2 points and probably should have lost there. You beat an Auburn team that won 6 games, probably should have lost there. I think being on the road is a very, very real detriment to the team, and it's something we haven't seen under Saban in a long time. But it's a real thing now.
Now, obviously, the Arkansas secondary down some guys. They've been playing
Mm-hmm.
horribly. It's a nightmare matchup going against Bryce Young, but Arkansas can get after you. I mean, I believe they still lead the SEC in sacks. Is that a concern for you with this Alabama offensive line? Giving up pressures. Even
No.
in that Texas game, he's getting harassed.
Yeah, he did all game. He had like 60 yards, I think, in the first half. I think they only had 70 yards total or something weird like that in the first half. Um, yeah, I'm worried about it because I think if you look at like even a year ago, where it's like you look at that LSU game and then they go zero, like cover zero and just blitz nonstop, and you're like, oh man, well, like I'm sure that that's just an anomaly, right? Like surely Bama's not gonna be held to 6 yards rushing or anything like that, and they haven't, thank God, since then. But I mean, we've seen this before where it's like you just break in the house. Auburn has 7 sacks against you. Georgia had like 5 or 6, I want to say, in the national championship game. I think it's an issue. I also think that last week is the first week we finally saw that receiving core kind of gain some confidence. And it kind of takes a while to gel sometimes. It takes a while, not just in practice, but like in a game situation. Like I played D2 baseball, as I've told you before, and we could talk about it all day long because of how just incredible accomplishing of a baseball player I was. I'm saying that all in jest, but I'm saying like there's a difference in practice and then going out under the lights. There's a big difference in practice and going out in front of 100,000 people and making sure you're reeling in some of these catches that you made on the sidelines or in the end zone of the practice field. I think that Bama will be better, but I do think that I do think, sorry, not all right. I do think that Arkansas has a lot of things that they could throw at Bama that is going to give them some issues. Because here's the thing, last year they won by 7 points. I still believe that game wasn't as close as people think because you had the fake field goal, onside kick, all that kind of stuff. I think that this year Arkansas is built to stay in this game with Bama more so than they were last year. I don't know if they will or not, but that's what I think they are built like.
Yeah, and their backs are now against the wall. They really, you may think it's a pipe dream that they think they can win the West, but hell, they knock off Alabama. They're right there because
Yeah.
A&M may drop another game. But how surprised were you at the spread? I don't know if it's still 17. It opened at 17.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make you nervous at all?
No, I think Bama wins by 14 plus points. To be honest, I really do. I think this team is you like we look at it. What we tend to do with Alabama is judge them by against themselves, and we judge them at their worst. And what I mean by that is, like last year, or we do the opposite, which is we judge them at their best, right? But we don't have the situation this year because they've only played Louisiana Monroe, which is a huge game, huge win, as you know. Bama's 500 in that series in the past 15 years. Utah State, who's garbage, and then Vandy last week, who I think is better than people. I think Vandy's the fifth best team in the East. That might sound crazy, but I think they're better than South Carolina and Mizzou. But anyway, so I think that winning by 40. Why are you laughing?
I'm just thinking of all the people just unsubscribed right now. But thank you, thank you.
No, unsubscribe to me. Don't subscribe to Mike. Don't punish him for me being right. I've been right all year. But like no, and you look at like this team going up against like what Arkansas does well, which is running the football. Have at it, Hoss. I mean, enjoy trying to do that against that front seven. I think that there's ways that they can win, but I think the only way they win is if KJ Jefferson has something, which he's done a lot, which is a 3+ touchdown, 0 turnover game, and you got to force a couple turnovers if you're Arkansas, which I don't think they're going to do in that secondary. I'm interested to see if Bama gets on the road in this environment against an offense that probably does. I know it sounds weird because of what happened a week ago, but kind of knows how to finish better than Texas does. I think Arkansas would be able to put them away. I just don't think it gets to that point. I just think that this defense has shut out opponents in 10 of 16 quarters this year. They're top 10 in the country in yards per attempt, or sorry, yards per play in offense and defense. It's the only school in the fucking country where they could be top 10 in both those categories and fans want both the coordinators fired. It makes no sense at all. It's so stupid. And I tell you, the other thing too is Jace McClellan is a pretty damn good running back. I think he might be better than Jahmyr Gibbs.
That's bold.
Yeah.
But we got the only undefeated showdown we got here, Kentucky at Ole Miss. You got any way you're leaning going into that big matchup?
Ole Miss, man. Kentucky's, I'm going to say it. Kentucky kind of sucks. I know that they're ranked 7th in the country, but yeah, I don't give a shit. Like, if you're all these fans want to get upset about it, Kentucky kind of sucks. Like, you guys look like shit in the first half of games, and congrats on being able to close against Miami of Ohio, because Vanderbilt did the same thing a week ago, and they did it more impressively because they were down by 14 points. And not Miami of Ohio, I'm sorry. Didn't they play Northern Illinois this weekend?
Yeah, and it was a 7-point game, and they didn't have their quarterback either.
Right. So Vandy was down by them, down 10 to them a week before, and they came back and won by 14. Vandy had a more impressive game against that same team than y'all did a week ago. Kentucky is going to be good, but this is what I said all offseason. It was like, I don't see how you replace 3 generational type players with like the 2 offensive linemen that got drafted. Then you talk about with the receiver who I'm drawing a blank on now. Help me out here. It was a fantastic name. Why can't I think of the name? The receiver that went to the NFL last year. Like he's the best receiver they've had since Craig East.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Wan'Dale Robinson. He was fantastic. And I think that you got the kid from Virginia Tech, Tavion Robinson's had a pretty good start or he had a pretty good game last week. Not a great start to the year. Kvasse spoke. I know you get Chris Rodriguez back, but you've been outrushed in 3 of your 4 games. Like that is the offense, right? It's like, and Will Levis can only do so much before Will Levis is gonna Will Levis. Like, he is going to turn the ball over. He is going to shut down in big moments, in my opinion. And I understand, like, you could sit here and go fucking yell at the wall if you're a Kentucky fan upset about this, because Will Levis is like, he led the SEC in interceptions a year ago. He had 4 in his first 3 games this year. You haven't played anybody and besides Florida, and that game was handed to you on a silver platter. So why do you think you're the 7th best team in the country? Because you're not.
How about A&M Mississippi State? This is a tough game to read in Starkville.
Yeah. Vegas knows something, right? I hated it. I hate this line. It opened up at 1.5 Mississippi State. I apologize to Kentucky fans for all the vitriol. That was tough. But I still mean what I said. So no, Mississippi State and A&M. I remember I was drunk as shit last year at the LSU Auburn game. Just having a blast, and it was just celebrating a divorce. And I remember getting there, and I'm just like, I remember looking at the screen. And I was like, why is A&M losing to Mississippi State? I must be drunk as shit. I can't read I'm reading the damn things wrong. And it was right. Mississippi State beat them in College Station, which is a tough thing to do for some teams. Looking at you, Bama. But no, I think that going to Starkville, you like, A&M obviously has like the better talent, right? The better roster. I do think Mississippi State is a better team than we give him credit for, because it's not just Will Rogers. Like, he doesn't get enough credit in general as a quarterback, but that defense, Zach Arnett's defense, does a really good job. They have scored, I think, in 15 of 16 quarters this season. The only one they didn't was the 4th quarter against LSU. I think that they're going. That's why that's scary if you're A&M, is because that's not what A&M's offense does. Like, we saw him come from behind a week ago, but if you're talking about an offense that just keeps putting it on you, like Mississippi State should be able to do. I don't know if A&M is going to be able to hang with them, but 3.5 points, that hook. I mean, and it's gone up. People have bought up the line, which is kind of crazy. So,
does Auburn have any hope at all against LSU this weekend? It was a crazy series.
It's the worst movie you ever seen in your life last week. It's like, what it reminded me of was like, you ever watch Mighty Ducks 2 as an adult? Probably not, because you're a better adult than me. But if you watch Mighty Ducks 2 as an adult, if you like really think about that movie, okay,
was that the one where they were like Olympians?
They just sprinkled in like affirmative action into the movie, and that's what became. It was like, okay, hold on, this is the worst rec league hockey team in Minnesota, in their county or what the fuck ever. And then they were like, but this is an incredible story. And we found this Hispanic kid who's super fast, which is messed up. And then you had this Asian figure skater and a female goalie, and then a black kid you found in Compton. You found the black kid in Compton. And that's not even the most unbelievable part. The most unbelievable part was when they were in Compton and they hit that knuckle puck over the fence and it broke that guy's windshield. That guy was like, "Hey, it's all good, bro. I'm going to the gym. Don't worry about it." If you haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie. It's fantastic. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I say all that because the ending of that movie was so stupid. And if you think about it, because like in hockey, you know when the puck goes into the net. And at the end of that movie, they're holding the glove and he flips up the puck in his glove, and it's like, oh, and everyone's on the edge of their seat. That's how dumb that ending was a week ago at Auburn. I mean, my God, the theater was incredible. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. But it was. I don't LSU. I think is a much better football team than people think. I saw a stat the other day on Twitter, so you know it's real, and it said that LSU's defense ranks 12th in the country, right behind Georgia's, who's 11th. It also ranks like 20th or something like that in offense, which is right behind Ole Miss or something like that. This is a pretty good football team. I mean, Jaden Daniels has 3 games this year of 300 plus total yards and 0 interceptions, and they have done a good job. It like all the stuff we thought we were going to see with LSU with Brian Kelly and a more structured and organized professional approach like to coaching has all happened. And I think the biggest thing is that this team now, when you look at it like 3 weeks ago, fucking sky is falling. They lost to Florida State, and Florida State sucks. And now you look at Florida State and they're 4-0. And you lost to them by 1 point on a neutral site, even though it's in New Orleans. I think LSU's a lot better than people think. So no, I don't give Auburn a chance unless Jesus shows up again, which for my mom, who's Pastor Patty Sue, has always told me he only shows up like once every 2,000 years.
So how soon after this game, Brian Harsin fired, and more importantly, because everybody's, they basically know it's already over and done with. Who do you want hired at Auburn? And maybe not even for the best of their football program, but just for entertainment value for you and I. I mean, we got candidates like Hugh Freeze, Deion Sanders, Lane Kiffin, any of those, or maybe there's a wild card.
I don't think Kiffin leaves Ole Miss to go to Auburn. There's so much instability at Auburn. And I think that, and this is going to shock some people, I think Lane Kiffin isn't toxic enough to go to Auburn, which is something I never thought I would say. I never thought I would say that. But I will also say that like the 2 candidates that I really wish that Georgia Tech would go after down the street from me here in Atlanta. And that's Deion Sanders, and that's Hugh Freeze. I was talking to Terrence Mathis about this. We have a TV show we did together here on Saturday mornings in Atlanta, and he's a former Falcon. Just one of my favorite receivers growing up anyway. And we were talking about this, and he's like, I think people are going to laugh at this. He told me this a year ago, right? He was like, I think Georgia Tech needs to go after Deion Sanders. And I was like, that doesn't sound crazy at all. I don't think that Georgia Tech will go after either of those. I think that Auburn, they laughed about this for so long. No, we don't need to go after Deion. We don't need to go after Hugh Freeze. If you're a Bama fan, the name that scares you is Hugh Freeze. And the other name that probably should scare you is Deion Sanders, because I understand he's been at Jackson State, but he's done a really good job of coaching. The way I think that he has taken this a lot more serious than we have taken him, if that makes sense. And I think he's a really, really good potential candidate, because especially from what you've lacked in Brian Harsin, from like recruiting standpoint, and from what you're looking at in terms of like, hey man, understands the culture of this region in the country. Go get him. Like, I mean, now Hugh Freeze also fits it well because he has that fake Christian bullshit, and excuse my language, but like he does all that kind of shit, and also is talking about how he wants to, he's like in people's DMs and shit. That might be what keeps him from the job, but I don't know.
All right, final thing for you, Chris. Really appreciate the time. How bad are you going to cry when Tennessee beats Alabama this year?
It's going to be the worst, Mike. I've known you for 5 years, and I've hated most of our interactions on that game day, because it's like you're one of my good friends, and I love you to death, man. And I really do. I think the world of everything you've been able to accomplish, and I'm happy for it. But that's not what I want you to accomplish. I don't want to see you smiling like you're smiling right now on that Saturday. And I have a bad feeling you might be. I really do, because I think this team is like, listen, I put this out there on Sunday. I did my top 10, and it's the one that people need to pay attention to because it's most important, like Danny Cannell said. No, but I had Tennessee 4th in the country. And I think if you look at what they've done so far, that I don't know how you can't talk me out of it. right? Like, I mean, you can't. I think they're the fourth best team in the country right now. At home, that like rocks of a crowd. And I'll tell you what, if you guys go to LSU and lose, it's a little bit different. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, my
Look at you,
God,
white. Look at you, all white Mike like that. Look at this.
Tennessee, number 4. Kentucky sucks. You just gained yourself 10,000 volunteer followers. Tell them where to find you, Chris, and all the outstanding work you're doing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's always good to come back on here. We'll have to get you back on our podcast too, which is again the College Football Uncensored podcast. If you love college football and you hate the bleep button, you will love the podcast. It's a lot of fun. We have a great time on there. Me and my co-host Tyler Huck. On social media, at Vern Funquist. I know. I'll give you a second to take that in. It's the best name you're gonna hear on Twitter. Besides that one girl who has Curvy Smart, that's really good. But yeah, Vern Funquist on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll see you then.
All right. So, hey, just again, a terrific interview there with Marler. Really